What is behind the concept of control? Some, even derogatorily, may say, so-and-so is a control freak. And then there is the show that was quite popular about The Odd Couple. Or consider from psychiatry or psychology the concept termed obsessive-compulsive disorder and the term perfectionist. What is the bottom line here? Well, I heard something a year ago from someone in San Francisco, and this was from someone in the finance circles, and he referred to a desire for predictability. That got me really thinking. Also, consider many or most of us would like to see things change slowly rather than rapidly, and that perhaps a somewhat different issue than predictability itself. Hence, one of the complaints of the older generations is that things are changing so rapidly as to various morals, various approaches to how best to be happy, changes in religion, changes in sexuality and expression of it, changes in drug use, changes in educational policies, etc., changes even in population density. 200 years ago, for instance, we were much more agrarian and farm-oriented, small community-oriented. Now, I think, for instance, concerning predictability, you might say, isn't it best to be able to see, if you were an army, your approaching adversary marching upon you from a distance afar, coming slowly? You would thus want this in terms of predictability, rather than, say, problematically for many American soldiers in the Vietnam War, guerrilla warfare, which was considered very unpredictable and much to the ire of the American soldier. Then, too, many a person would rather die from a disease of long duration, say heart disease or cancer, rather than what they call murder, sudden death, or a widowmaker heart attack, by which one moment you're at your desk working and the next moment you've dropped dead on the floor. Sorry to put it so bluntly in certain ways, but we do not like sudden change, do we? And I believe that then to be part of our desire for control or predictability. Noting, too, Dr. Ann Schaaf, who was a Cherokee Indian and passed away a couple years ago, had said in her book, When Society Becomes an Addict, that one of the biggest problems that you could label an addiction in societies is the desire for control. But she never brought up the word predictability. Isn't this desire for slow change, too, part of the reason why some would rather march on to a, quote, nursing home rather than other options? There are various words, too, to apply to these concepts, like some saying they like to plan everything, meticulous planning even. Others calling it perfectionism once again. Yet others saying they wish the opposite approach and wish to just wing it. Or in writing circles, plotters versus pantsters, flying by the seat of your pants thus. Of course, there's the question, can you meld the two together? Periods of meticulous planning and periods of winging it or seizing the moment. Or, as some would say in the military, making a command decision. Even many executives pride themselves, I believe, on making quick decisions. But then how do you discern a quick decision from impulsive ones? In my mind these days, it may have a lot to do with the definition impulsive tied to getting something for reasons to satisfy an addictive desire, a defense mechanism in action to combat fear. Now, also, behind the desire for control, I believe, or structuring things out, is the idea that we have our premises best in order, i.e., fundamental concepts, or as behavioral scientists might say, or rather cognitive behavioral therapists, core premises in general, that we have these all in line correctly. But what if we're wrong on a certain point, and then plan things out for the next 50 years, say, based upon these bad premises? Isn't it better to be more flexible and not plan so much and let serendipity take its course to give us pathways we might not have planned on so lock, stock, and barrel? Because we might sometimes be wrong in our planning because we planned given certain concepts that could sometimes be incorrect. Hence why I believe sometimes an accident can be the best thing ever happening to us, because it forces us to change plans, to make course corrections out of the mold planned for from our premises that we otherwise might not have questioned or wanted to deviate from. If I didn't mention already, then hence the concept of silver linings. Maybe this then is why sometimes people say cancer is the best thing that ever happened to them, or that out of chaos can come something wonderful. Because again, one can be introduced to new concepts, new premises, or one's old ones shaken up and re-examined or clarified, or both. And plans made on bad premises, if too rigid, will not be in your best advantage down the line, I believe. So yes, I believe we would all like to avoid pain as much as possible, and many thus try to, quote, control it away. But is it possible to optimize pain in the future to a minimum if we are not sure that our premises, for instance, are all correct, and thus build out vast structures to control our lives based on some incorrect information once again? For isn't that thus the term dogma in action, and planning based on dogma, control based on dogma? To include ruling out information that might be beneficial because you say it could shake up something in you. There are, for instance, various people in various churches that would say, never look at anything on the internet and never listen to anyone except me. Well, then how are you going to possibly see that a certain premise or two of ours might be incorrect and have wrongly or inoptimally thus planned out your life to ostensibly control pain to a minimum and help others in the same respects? So it strikes me, for instance, that our penchant all too often to want to be in control is to want to have to not endure or suffer our core premises being changed or questioned. We would like to stick to these as much as possible. And tied into this, the concept of denials, we would like, if brought up in a certain denial view, to stick to it. And thus, to lose control in part would be to suffer impingement upon certain denials of ours with truths. We'd rather control things such that that doesn't happen. For denials make things simpler in the short term, but not the long term, I believe. So yes, just to recap a bit on this then, I think most of us would like predictability, and we call it euphemistically having control. But isn't part of this also not just pain management as per physical pain, but the pain of having our denials challenged? we would rather control it such that our denials are never challenged or change very, very slowly. Thoughts to consider here.